Toasted lavender, queer life poetry. Welcome to Toasted Lavender. I am one of your hosts, Alex. My pronouns are she and her. Today, we're having a fun sharing beer situation.
And a sharing hosting situation.
Yes, it's really
share.
I'm Lisa. My pronouns are she, her. And I am your other host tonight.
Hi, I'm Kai, and my pronouns are he, him.
Hi, I'm Lindsay, and my pronouns are she, her.
Shout out to Kirsten for bringing us some bomb-ass beer from Colorado, and we're all drinking a pair of beers from Jagged Mountain Craft Brewery in Colorado, and it's a collaboration with Woods Boss. And these pair of beers are called She Said, He Said, and vice versa, She Said, He Said. And there's a picture of them on our Instagram. They have very fun labels.
And you said they're like the same beer except for the hops are different.
The hops are different in the he said versus the she said.
So what is this the she said hops?
sativa and zamba.
And sativa is not spelled the way you think it is.
It's not sativa. It's sit. Eva.
Sativa.
And Zamba, not like Zumba.
And then in the other beer, it's Sultana and Strata.
And I know Strata, but the rest of the three are very new to me. So I'm excited. Anyways.
Try this beer.
Yeah, what one do you guys like better?
I don't know.
They're both really good.
They're both really good. They're not that different.
They're not that different. If I'm barely able to tell the difference, if I'm being completely honest.
He said, she said, she said, he said. They're both delicious.
Maybe that's why that's the name.
Really sorry to Jagged Mountain and Woods Boss Brewing. We like your beers, but
we can't tell.
We
them
can't
apart.
really.
The cans are cool because it looks like a king and a queen. Like a
suit,
face
cards,
flip flop
face cards. There you go.
On each can. They're very fun cans.
It's a cool
I like
label
the art.
design.
Yeah.
And it's a good beer. And it's 8.2%.
Yes.
Really?
So cheers.
So we're going to have a great podcast tonight.
All right. We're here. We're queer. We're drinking beer.
We are.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Can we also take a moment to cheers to Bruce?
Shout out Bruce.
Our first ever patron. And that's just very exciting.
It made all of our day today to see that somebody
Bruce.
had signed up to be a Patreon.
If you'd like to support our show, you can find all the links on our bio on our Instagram, Toasted Lavender Podcast. Our show will always be free, so just know that. But if you'd like some fun little bonuses,
Stickers,
t-shirts, show notes.
extra bonus fun clips from our outtakes and silliness.
Yeah, check out our Patreon.
And
videos too drunk to put out in the world.
We are going to be sending Bruce a really nice welcome gift. Welcome to our podcast friendship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for being our number one fan.
Our only fan.
Our only fan. So we're just really excited about that. It put a little pep in our step today, I think collectively.
Right. Thanks, Bruce.
So the subject of today's podcast episode is our own flavor of queer TV and movie club. So we picked a couple of TV shows that have made an impact in our lives recently, and we mentioned them on episode 4, actually, on our this half year in queer. My topic of choice is the Umbrella Academy. So I picked up a couple of queer things that I felt were relevant to talk about. The first thing that I wanted to touch on is that it's going to get a little sticky because Elliot Page the human being, and Vanya, the fictional character, have different pronouns.
Fair enough.
So I'm going to do my very best. I feel like I took pretty good notes.
And you're pretty sober right now. So
I'm relatively sober. That's why I want to go first. Elliot describes himself as a transgender non-binary person, which I knew somewhere deep in my mind that was the case, but I think I've referred to him as a trans man, and maybe that's not completely accurate. So there's fact number one.
Yeah, I think every person has a different label that they feel comfortable with. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he's also referred to himself as like a trans guy, etc. My quick rewind on the general plot of the show is that it's based on a comic series by Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance, and someone
Is there something you'd like to say?
I just wanted to say shout out to 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. That's all.
Shout
That's all
out
I have
to
say.
Gerard Way.
Kai has a very personal relationship.
What is that, 2003?
2000, yeah, probably 2005, I want to say is when that album came out.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
And also someone named Gabriel Ba. I don't know if I pronounced that
Shout
right.
out Gabriel. I don't know who you are, but
Yeah,
cheers to you.
Cheers to you. And it's a sort of superhero themed drama, and it's on Netflix. Season 1 had 2 Emmy nominations, and season 2 had 4 Emmy nominations.
Wow, I did not know that.
I didn't write down what they were nominated for, but it was like costume and music and etc.
I get the music.
Yeah, the music in
Yeah.
that show was really good.
Yes.
I agree.
It was also nominated for a couple dozen other awards and recognition, and won a few of those, but they weren't really big time award things.
While we're at it, know that there will likely be spoilers.
Oh, this is
Spoiler
it's full
city.
spoilers.
So if you haven't seen it, I think you could still enjoy what we want to talk about, but if you want to,
Maybe pause,
experience
go
it,
watch both seasons, and then come back.
yeah, it's
We'll
up to
see you in a few weeks.
Yeah, but I don't think you have to know it
No,
necessarily.
you don't need to know it, but just
For
please
this
don't be
episode.
offended
Yeah,
by the
If
spoilers
we're-
that are
Spoiler alert.
forthcoming. I have been doing some Googling every couple weeks to figure out when season 3 is coming out.
Have you gotten an answer yet?
Kind of. They're still filming season 3 as of July 2021, and we will probably see it on Netflix summer or fall of 2022.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
We have a long
So we have
ways to
a
wait.
ways to go.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about
Elliot's
this
just
now.
I know.
gonna be like, just like buffing out like Hulk by then, probably. Just like
Probably.
brr.
he's just gonna wear like a Batman suit.
Yeah, brr.
in the new Umbrella Academy.
probably.
You know the Batman suit.
Yeah.
With like the nipples.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And the abs.
Is that Batman
the nips
Forever?
and the abs.
Has the-
Yeah,
Oh, probably,
buddy.
yeah. We're pretty sure there will also be a season 4.
Okay, so it's still going for a minute.
Yeah, there's more than likely at least 2 more seasons.
But if you're a
of
listener
this.
and you're up to season 2, you're totally prepared.
You're
for
good to
this.
go. The first thing that I'm going to mention is Vanya, because, of course,
Of course, Vanya is what we need to talk about.
Vanya is one of the superhero siblings who was raised to believe that she actually did not have any superpowers. However, we learn that she is actually the most powerful of all the siblings and ends up destroying the world. Spoiler. It's not good for Earth.
And that's like both seasons, right?
Yeah.
Ish, yeah.
Yes. Like
Okay.
each season kind of crescendos into
Her doing a big old
yes.
And
Big
the
booty, big
world.
old.
End.
World end.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
So she has super spooky powers that are unleashed when she's uncontrollably emotional,
Okay. Mhm.
right? And we have no real clues about her sexual orientation or gender identity, but she's definitely very androgynous.
She is certainly very androgynous.
And I will circle back to that.
Okay.
In season 1, she's dating a guy who ends up being a yucky, gross manipulator. In season 2, she has destroyed the world, and all the siblings have traveled back in time to 1960 to 1963 in Dallas, Texas. And Vanya has no memory of her past life and ends up hanging out with a family who takes her in and cares for her. Yada, yada, yada. She falls in love with the mom, whose name is Sissy, which I think is weird.
Pretty gay.
That's putting it lightly.
I think it's a weird name. But it's probably very 1963 Dallas, Texas. Mm-hmm. And there are definitely a lot of feelings both ways on that. They really have a connection. And it's 1963. Sissy cannot break away from her abusive husband in any sort of satisfactory way. They talk about it, but what are they going to do? And Elliot has said in interviews that this is the first time Vanya has fallen in love.
Like, truly.
Like,
fallen
in
love.
canon, this is like the first time that Vanya has fallen in love with another person.
What? Who's that guy?
Carl or whatever.
The husband?
No.
Oh, season 1, the manipulator.
Oh.
He was scary.
He was the villain.
He was quite a villain. I forgot his name, like Montrell or
Montreal. Oh. Leonard Peabody.
Leonard Peabody. Fuck you
Leonard Peabody.
forever.
Leonard is Vanya's love interest,
In
but
season
apparently
1.
Vanya
Yes.
did not love as much.
It wasn't
as
a true.
It wasn't,
a true love
It was
interest.
a, like,
It was the first
supportive
person that
partnership.
paid attention to her.
Yes.
That is so
She's
true.
like, yeah, he likes me, and I really like that. So
Everyone else has ignored me my whole life.
yes,
right.
I found it interesting that Vanya just kind of goes with the flow regarding her romantic feelings towards other people from season to season, and that in season 2 there wasn't really. It didn't seem like there was a lot of struggle within Vanya to get with Sissy. I don't know. It's interesting to me.
Well, what I remember is that Vanya like took an interest in Sissy's kid, who seemed to be
Yes.
troubled,
Well,
which sort of ties into
This-
like Vanya's character,
right, and we don't have to go too deep into it, but Harlan is the child's name, and Harlan is like not a neurotypical child and
Right.
needs additional care, and so Vanya's kind of babysitting him. But Vanya does connect with him.
There's a connection. That's all I'm trying to
Yes.
say. Is
Yeah.
like, I felt like that's how Vanya like got the in.
Yes.
She
and
was
then
like
Sissy was like, "Oh, this other woman
I
is
love
taking
how she
paying
care of
attention to my
kid."
child, and his own father
For
doesn't
sure,
pay
and of
as much
course that
attention.
would be
That's
attractive
hot.
in a partner. Of course, that would be
Yeah.
attractive in a partner.
The other character that I wanted to mention is Klaus. And Klaus has been described as non-binary and pansexual by the actor who plays him. And he wasn't written that way in the script originally. But the actor and I think maybe the director kind of decided that it was better to incorporate some kind of gender nonconforming aspects of the actor's life and characteristics into the fictional character class.
To make it a little more
Just
relatable or
like
real.
zazz it up, right?
Do you know if the actor is queer?
The actor, I saw a thing that like he was queer, but then I saw a thing where he says he's heterosexual, and maybe there's some sort of like overlapping circles there, but he certainly does some like gender bendy fashion.
He played the
things.
role well.
Yeah.
Do we know his name? Like his real name?
I did, and then I didn't write it down.
That's okay.
Unfortunately.
That's all right.
And Klaus is seen wearing one of his sister's skirts in one of the initial episodes, and
Like as a child?
As a child, right?
no.
Oh, okay.
As an adult,
Okay,
it's after they come back to the house, and it's after 5 comes back to their timeline.
Do you want to know his name?
Yes.
Robert Sheehan?
That sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, that guy. So his sibling 5, the sibling's name
The
is
dead
5.
one?
No,
Sorry. Who's the dead one?
Ben.
Sibling number
6.
5's the badass little
5
kid
is the
in the
little
tuxedo.
kid.
Oh, right. The old man in a child's
Yeah.
body.
Yes.
Yes.
So 5 genuinely compliments Klaus on his skirt, which was nice to see because it wasn't made into like a sarcastic joke of like, hey, nice skirt, weirdo.
Right.
It
Or
was more
shameful
like,
thing.
hey, nice skirt. And then Klaus's sister, whatever her name was, Agatha?
No, Abby,
I don't
Who are
know.
you talking about?
the sister, the other
Allison?
sister,
Allison.
Agatha, Abby, Allison. We got there.
Allison?
Allison, it's Allison's skirt. And she said something like, why are you wearing my skirt?
My skirt.
And he was like, well, it was out, or, you know, etc. It wasn't really made into a big deal. It was just kind of like you got a little flare of Klaus in an early episode.
Or Flair.
Yes. And his superpower is seeing and hearing dead people, but he uses drugs and alcohol to suppress this ability most of the time.
God, who wouldn't?
Yeah, for real.
Right.
I would. I know I would.
You could just see ghosts.
Yeah, that would be really fucking insane.
And it's so intense. Like those scenes when he does see the ghosts, it's like
Yeah.
you feel a lot of empathy towards his character.
Right.
You're like, yes, use as many drugs
He's a
as you can
tortured
find.
soul. That's like really the storyline there.
So season 2 ends with all the siblings going forward in time from 1963, and they discover that they are in an alternate or altered timeline. They have affected the future in some way. And there are different siblings in the house that they grew up in. And it's called Sparrow Academy. There are totally different actors that are involved. We don't really know them yet, but the main point is that they flash forward into this timeline and
Meet some bizarro versions
meet
of themselves.
meet some bizarro versions of themselves.
Or the new then.
It's not them. Because what happens is they've altered their timeline, or they're in an alternate timeline where their dad picks different babies.
Oh.
But he still picks them.
But
I guess that's my point.
He
is-
doesn't pick the same babies.
Right.
So
I
they're
think-
different people.
Okay. That was my point. Was just that like this still occurs where there is an academy.
They're still an academy.
There's still like babies that are chosen
Superheroes,
for
just-
whatever reason.
Right.
But it's not the same people. It's different people.
Right.
Oh,
Different
okay.
people.
I
Still
see.
a similar experience.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. The important point is that we see Vanya is still Vanya as we know her in this flash forward. And so we can't really count on a time travel related change in her gender presentation in the future.
I'm so interested to see how they're going to do this. And I think they're going to handle it sensitively.
I think so.
Because they changed from the previous name to
Right.
Elliot Page, even in the former seasons.
Yes.
And so I wonder.
It was pretty immediate, the change when Elliot came out in December of 2020. And in my mind, I remembered there being some kind of pressure from fans, and maybe it was just like the one day, because it was only one day, but there was like one day where fans were like, what's going to happen with Vanya? Is Elliot going to play Vanya? And Elliot is going to play Vanya. And Elliot was like, well, I hope they have me back. And then the next day, it was confirmed that he will be back as Vanya.
So none of us know what's going to happen.
I thought it was more drawn out than 24 hours, but I guess
I'm sure that there's a lot of contractual things happening too. That's like,
I know Elliot had contractual things.
Right, like, yeah. I will only resume this role if X, Y, and Z is met. I'm sure that's
right.
a thing.
So here's my big question number one. Since we already know that Elliot is involved in filming season 3 of Umbrella Academy, because I have personally verified this, as Vanya, like as the Vanya character, with, as far as we know, like no changes into her gender identity, how do you feel about the show portraying what is supposed to be a cis female character with a trans person? Yes.
Great.
Man, I feel so weird about that.
But how many, like, straight people have played
trans characters?
Or any other identity of a character, where there are probably actors that live that life that could have played that part, and they choose to, you know, have some straight person.
God, what a good question, Alex. That's a really good question. I think about Hilary Swank playing in Boys Don't Cry and like doing a fucking knockout job.
Right.
And then getting a ton of backlash from the trans community. And I'm not saying that that's not warranted, but it's like, why didn't you choose a trans masculine person to play this role? And so this is very interesting to think of this in
it's the opposite,
the other perspective,
kind of.
And I mean, I hope that we are going towards a world where transgender human beings can be cast in any role just like cisgender human beings. Because to be completely honest, I haven't even thought of the possibility, and I'm realizing now that I'm totally just like living on a cloud, but I haven't even thought of the possibility that Netflix wouldn't bring Elliot back in Vanya's role as some sort of like, I assumed somewhere in my naive mind that the trans narrative would be a part of it, but no, it may not be, and that's probably a good thing in a lot of cases.
Do you feel like where you have the trans lens, do you feel like that could be triggering to, for your job, have to revert back pre-transition?
It would trigger the fuck out of me, I'll tell you what. It would trigger the fuck out of me. So, I don't know. But also, it really comes back to what I said before of like, the coin going both ways. Like, cis people play trans actors all the time, so why can't trans actors play cis people? And I think eventually, in a world that's a lot less focused on everybody's details and bits, that maybe we get to a place where cis people play trans people and trans people play cis people, and it's not a thing. But right now, it's very... Yeah, I would be triggered.
I'm glad that you've taken it there, because I have some further points to make.
Okay. Sorry if I went on too long.
Everything's cool. I'm going to go to my first kind of side note, and then I'll come back to part of the last half of my question. So I've read on some like fan forum things like on Reddit. A lot of fans question Vanya's sexuality, and because she was very androgynous in season 1, and then in season 2, it's like all bets are off. Sissy's here.
Yeah.
But I did read in the
What a quote.
All bets are off. Sissy's here.
I read in the March 2021 Time magazine piece where we got to see photos of Elliot for the first time after his coming out and transition, that he made, quote, made a masculine wardrobe a condition of taking roles.
Yes.
So
okay.
in general, I think that's the case. I think that's the case for Umbrella Academy. And so maybe this androgynous viewpoint of Vanya is less of a showrunner's idea of who Vanya is, and more of like, this is what Elliot has said that are his conditions of being in the show. And there's a lot of money to be made by Netflix by having an Elliot Page as like their star. I mean, I'm not going to discount that.
Absolutely.
That's probably a pretty big piece for them to accept.
There's a lot of like firsts and
yeah,
media attention and
the backlash that Netflix would get by saying like, sorry, Elliot Page is no longer on the show.
Right. Well, also, I feel like the script is very open for this type of character to be able to come in and have it feel natural to the show.
And it kind of sounds like it was set up that way from the get-go.
And I did read that at the end of season 1, when Vanya is destroying the Earth, and she turns into like the white violin.
Devil.
Yeah, but is in like in the comics.
Captain Planet.
Yeah, it's like the reverse Captain Planet.
Yeah.
In the comics, Vanya is in like a really skin tight, like basically almost nude white unitard.
Oh.
But in the show, Vanya
like a
is
power
wearing.
suit.
It's like a power suit, but it has like tails. It's like a tux and tails situation.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
wasn't Vanya conducting an orchestra? Or
She was
something?
like the lead chair of the violin club.
Right.
And then
Yeah,
her
but she was a
violin
part
just started.
She was part of like this very prestigious orchestra.
Yes.
So they were doing a big show.
right.
So it makes sense she'd be wearing that.
Right. So the last part of my first question is, well, Kai, I'm glad that you brought up the points that you did, because there were definitely some gross and weird comments made by fans on like the Umbrella Academy subreddit, and that's the only thing that I read in real time. The comments were after Elliot came out as trans, and there was some strong turfy undercurrent to the sentiments. Like, it's not okay for someone who's trans to play a cis character. And what pronouns would we possibly use for Vanya? And we need to protect women's jobs. So a woman needs to be playing a woman.
That is so turfy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's, yeah, but I think that a lot of like comic book and maybe like video game people kind of have some turfy inclinations.
For sure.
And it's just like, I don't know.
I don't want to be stereotypical because I know a lot of people that like video games that are not that way.
Yeah, it's not every person that likes video games in any way. It's just that when there are any type of non-cis man flavors into any piece of that universe, it's like, this is bad. Like, girls can't play video games, and also, like, trans people can't be comic book people.
Well,
and,
this
like,
is what's so this is what's so disheartening about all of it, is just what you said. Like, when there's anybody other than like a cis white male character, there's anybody
Yes.
else, and everybody else has to have an opinion and get on board and say, we aren't being represented, they're being overrepresented. Like, it's like turns
Right.
into this whole thing of like, we're women and we fought so hard to like be seen, and now this woman is trading in her woman card and screwing us over. Like, it's
yeah.
The gatekeepers.
it's gatekeepy.
It's
Yeah.
worse than gatekeeping.
There's so
because
much
it's so
gatekeeping
yucky.
going on.
Yeah.
And I heard a thing about how
Can we all just adopt a hippie culture where we let go of the gatekeeping and we're all
Yes.
just
yes, we can.
here to love and be loved?
When I was listening to Gender Reveal this morning, they very briefly talked about TERFs in episode 1, like the pre-episode.
Oh,
They
wow.
talked about a little vocabulary.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's been a long time since I listened to that very first segment, so
It's
I should
fun and
revisit
interesting. It's fine. It was like 20 minutes long or something.
Yeah.
But they said that TERFs are like mainly lesbians.
Yeah, it is.
Really?
Yeah, TERFs are mainly lesbians because it's like, and this is what's interesting, is it footed off of like the radical lesbians, which were once the Lavender Menaces, and they were like too. Yeah,
Because my perception is it's mostly like cis women who want to be woke and be gatekeepy, and I understand that there's like a lesbian aspect to that, right? I didn't know that it was like mostly.
What does TERF actually stand for?
Again, what
Oh
is TERF?
God, trans
Exclusionary.
exclusionary radical feminists.
We
For the
kind of
kids at
talked about
home.
this. Was it episode 2 or was it Lavender
2
Queer?
and 3. We
Yeah.
touched on TERFs, yeah.
And there are like communities of lesbians that move into the farmlands and ban all males. Even
Yeah.
if there are babies born, they're like,
Like, get
sooner
that
or later,
penis
this
outta
guy's
here.
got to go. Like,
I don't like that.
so
Clearly.
it was they clearly believe that
All right.
the world is better.
It's
for whatever
mostly a
reason.
lesbian thing.
Really?
It's mostly a radical lesbian thing.
Well, I mean, who else are you gonna like hang out with and sleep with and be intimate
guess if
with?
you-
so much
Like,
to
if
this,
it's
and
not
I'm
a
just
woman.
like feel like I
Okay,
have a volcano
we're-
coming out of my
We're
mouth.
gonna have to do a whole episode on TERFs,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be so gross.
Yeah.
But
Get excited for it, guys.
what's good is that we can like reference other episodes and like we've this is a thing. This
Right.
is something that there's a lot of things to
Yeah.
say.
Here's my big question number 2. Do you think that the show writers will try to stray from the source material in order to create a non-cis subplot for Vanya?
I hope that whatever happens, one way or the other, Elliot is in the conversation. I personally, as a fan, am fine either way as long as
He's a part of
he's
deciding.
a part of it and like they're all happy with what direction it goes. Because I feel like that's where it could get yucky really fast, is if someone's uncomfortable with like what we talked about before. It's one thing if you're stoked as an actor to be playing a cis person and you're trans, but if that is extremely triggering to you, then that could be
You don't,
Like
devastating.
a no-go.
Right. So, and I feel confident that Elliot wouldn't do something that he is uncomfortable with at this stage of his career and having gone through this massive public
coming
transition.
out, yeah.
Right.
So I hope that is the direction that they're all taking it as from every level of production.
Also, I feel like worth adding to that is that it's been very, like, from the get-go, and I know I didn't start watching it right when it came out. We binged through the whole thing probably 6 months ago, so it had been out for a while, but, like, I felt a lot of, like, gender bendy vibes right from the beginning. And I don't know if I was just looking for that but it felt like it was already kind of that character was already kind of set up for that. So I feel like they kind of have an easy path that even if Vanya continues on and doesn't transition or get, transformed to a new dimension as a different gender or whatever, even if they stick with Vanya as a her, I feel like they've already set up a bendy path for Vanya.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good way to look at it. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think that I don't know anything about the comic books.
Yeah, I don't.
Right?
know a
So
lot.
you and I have been in a situation where we were watching The Walking Dead, like, pretty religiously in the
Right.
beginning of The Walking Dead, and there was always a subject of conversation online about whether or not the next episode was going to follow the comic books, or because everybody was trying to predict what was going to happen next based on the comic books.
And they were very popular comic books.
And they were very popular. And so I don't know anything about the comic books for this particular show, and like how far they'd have to stray from whatever storyline
has already been written.
Right.
Yeah, that's already been written. So
I don't know anything about the comic books either. So.
I think that's an interesting thing
Yes.
that they're going to have to consider, and like I don't really envy that if it's hard.
Well,
but it's just part of the deal.
all I know about the comics are what I learned basically from researching this topic and just kind of like browsing subreddits after I watch an episode or whatever. The second part to my question is, how do you feel when a show or a movie changes the gender identity of a character to match the actor more closely?
Do you have an example?
I don't feel like that.
Well,
really been done a lot.
I talked about Klaus. Klaus, his storyline was made to kind of fit the actor a little bit more.
But we don't
He
know
was
it any other
supposed-
way. Where we like
Right.
didn't read the comics.
Yeah. Well, in the comics, his character is just like
a
cis
druggy dude.
het.
A druggy cis dude.
Yeah, I think a druggy guy.
Yeah.
But the show, the writers, they were worried about diversity in their casting at the time. So they kind of like let Robert bring some aspects of his own personality into the character. And
And I love that character. I think that was a really smart move because
Yeah.
it's really good character.
I can't
development.
imagine Klaus in any other way, really.
Mm-mm.
He's really empathetic and like just relatable. And
Yeah.
sort of tortured and.
I also think that directors letting, or production team, whatever, letting whoever they have come together and decided, okay, these are going to be the people doing the roles for this show, and letting them bring something of their own to the show is very...
Why wouldn't you
It changes
want it, right?
everything,
Like,
and
it's a
in the
strength.
best possible way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that, to me, that reminds me of, like, the L Word, and how Eileen Shacken, like, let them all come together and, like, fill out who they were going to be. I learned from their podcast that Alice wasn't even going to be a character on the show, and then this person auditioned, and they were like, oh my god, we have to write a character for her. So it's like... But, back to your question, I don't know. I don't feel like I know enough. I don't feel like I have enough examples of that happening. I hope there are more examples of that happening in the future, but I don't have enough examples that come up in my mind right away to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I had in my mind was like these two characters, Vanya and Klaus, where there's a precedent where they've changed Klaus's character a little bit. Mm-hmm. And will they do the same with Vanya?
Right.
Like, would that make sense? I have no idea. It's a
if
superhero.
we were super comic-y people, maybe we would have
It's
a
a
better...
superhero movie. Like,
Yeah. But
maybe.
also, like, where her character is already established.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if Klaus was established as, like, a cis-het character, and then suddenly he's this gender-bendy queer.
Yeah.
But
where they just set him up that way.
where
from
they
the
set him
get-go.
up that way. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Vanya's character, because that character's already been established.
Well, and I thought that it was like, it didn't leave them with a lot of options when at the very end of season 2, like you see Vanya, and only for a moment when they go to the Sparrow Academy. But maybe that's going to play a part. Like, they flash forward in time and it's an alternate reality, and Vanya appears to be Vanya as we know her. And maybe in season 3, it's just kind of like there's like a little trans subplot that maybe isn't.
They kind of go
out there,
backwards.
but-
Maybe they go backwards in time. Maybe they like try to
And they're like,
fill in, then weave the storylines together.
yeah.
And you know what? To that point, now is the time to do that.
Yeah.
Like, as
People will
a
watch
producer, like, that would be a great decision to make, because
I don't think it would be too far-fetched to have it be like, okay, Vanya blew up the world twice as a woman.
Right.
Maybe it makes sense for Vanya to feel more comfortable transitioning, and they show like that transition.
Right.
And they become harmonious with themselves instead of feeling the need to blow up the world.
Volatile,
Who knows?
inner turmoil.
Because she just like bottles up her emotions, and that's
right.
As soon as she like stops taking drugs, she can unleash like this
I feel like
world-ending
the
power.
plot is there.
I
don't think it's going to
available
be
for
that
them.
hard.
I
to
think they'll have so many opportunities
move.
to.
Yeah.
I think
I do
you're
too.
right, Lindsay.
What do you think that Vanya's name would be if there was
Not
a transition?
Vanyo.
I think it's Vanyo.
Vanya.
Oh my god.
I think maybe like
Van.
Vance.
Vince. All right. Okay. I like that better than Vanyo.
God damn it.
Sorry, I'm just conjugating over here. My Spanish
I
class.
know you're conjugating.
Here's my very last rabbit hole that I went down today is casting trans actors in cis roles. And there's been a push for that from an actors union called Equity, to have more trans actors in cis roles as well as trans roles. Elliot Page's case is very unique because he is mid-role when he came out as trans and actively transitioning. One of the articles that I read today mentioned something about invisible diversity, where you don't need to hire someone to be like the token diversity hire, but you're just being inclusive in who you're hiring and who's best for whatever role. And
Imagine that. You're just hiring who's best qualified, regardless of how they identify.
Any other
Yeah.
factors?
What a world to live in.
And yeah, I said if a person is playing a character, like if you're acting, then why would it matter if you're trans or cis if they fit the role? And there are plenty of cis actors that have portrayed trans people in film and TV, and that is fine. However, Scarlett Johansson
Hot. Fuck.
As who? No, who is Scarlett? I know where you're going with this, and I'm very
you?
reeled in. I'm reeled
Okay.
in. Is it the Avatar thing? The Avatars thing? Okay, what is it? I'm ready. I'm ready
Black
for
Widow?
No,
Lisa and I are on the same vibe.
We're off comic books.
Okay.
So
Scarlett Johansson.
I think this was 2018. I'd have to open up some links, and I don't want to do that. Scarlett Johansson was cast in a film called Rub and Tug.
Oh.
To play...
Excuse me, what year?
2018?
Wow, very recently.
To play a trans man whose name is Dante Tex Gill.
Oh my, that's quite the name.
Dante Tex Gill. Does that remind you?
It reminds me of a lot of different things. Shout out to Gill.
Hey, Gill.
Shout out to Tex over here.
Hey, Tex.
Sorry,
You're Tex.
this is Tex.
You're Tex. What's you? What
Roy.
Roy.
Roy, Tex, and Gill.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Who the hell's Dante?
What a thing.
Let
wanna
me
be
just
Dante?
tell you.
I don't. Blanche can be Dante.
Blanche is Dante for sure.
Yeah, Blanche is Dante.
There was a lot of backlash from the LGBT community.
I remember
I remember
this unfolding on Twitter, actually.
She ultimately backed out of the role.
Because of pressure from the LGBTQ community.
And this is the first thing that I read. And then I read another couple of articles about this very specific film and role, and Dante, Gill, Tex. And I totally get why Scarlett played this as like, I'm just listening to people, right? And I'm going to do what they want. And maybe that's totally whatever, but it's not entirely altruistic. So, there was backlash. Scarlett ultimately backed out of the role, and I don't think the movie's going to be made.
I haven't heard shit about it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There was a quote that expressed a sentiment that I fully understand and was I wanted to bring up, and it's from Tracy Lissette, who has worked on Amazon's series Transparent and who's trans, who wrote, "I wouldn't be as upset if I was getting in the same rooms as Jennifer Lawrence and Scarlett for cis roles, but we know that's not the case."
Damn, that's all you need to say right
Yeah,
there.
that's
Yeah, I think
Right.
that answers your question.
Right.
Like, and what's her face that was in Boys Don't Cry?
Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank.
Right.
And that was in 1999. And I understand, like, there's
Things have
been 20
progressed
plus
since
years.
then.
And
Sure.
she's like a big name actress who took this like very edgy and like provocative role.
And so many of those actors and actresses win awards.
Oh, yeah.
For
Yes.
Oh yeah,
going
Jared Leto.
so far outside their
Yes.
box.
Jared Leto winning a
Right.
what did he win, an Oscar for?
Requiem.
I think
Was
so.
it- are
No,
we
no,
talking
no.
about-
When
The
he-
Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah, when he played a trans
and that
woman.
was so.
It was
that's
not-
icky. Yeah,
yeah,
But
that's
it's
icky.
that's the thing, is it's seen as this like, we need to praise them. Like, look at them.
'Cause
they're
They're
so
so
talented.
They're so talented, so progressive.
Right. Like, okay, yes, you're talented, but also, like, is it the biggest acting job in the world to play a trans person?
So yeah, until we're bowing down at the knees of trans people playing cis characters, fuck off.
And why not a trans person playing a cis character getting the same recognition of, like, isn't this the best actor in the world?
Can you believe they pulled this off?
They pulled off a cis person? I read a very, very,
Wouldn't that be
very...
some shit?
That would be some shit.
I read a very
Here's
great
your
article.
Golden Globe.
We have to put it on our
Bro.
Patreon. It's about Dante Tex Gill.
Dante Texkill.
I was fascinated because this guy was born in like 1930 and was a
wow.
gangster.
Okay.
A fucking gangster, trans man. Damn. Apparently the Scarlett...
Do a whole story on Dante Texkill.
I think it's a very insane historical thing that I have
Okay.
no idea.
Okay.
The
We should look into
Wikipedia entry is completely bare.
Of course.
So
It's a deep cut.
Gotta get to the library.
it's a real deep cut. But Dante Gill was absolutely a trans man and lived a long life and was a gangster, and like there's a mafia aspect and went to prison and etc. But in the movie, Scarlett Johansson was going to play him as a very butch lesbian who had to fit into like a masculine mafioso
Like G.I.
character.
Jane?
No, not it's worse than G.I. Jane. And then like kind of erases his wife and kind of erases like all these things that don't need to be erased in the history of Tex.
Okay.
Making a man.
Coming soon, an episode about Dante Tex.
Yeah, it was
Gill.
Seriously, so Dante Tex Gill was a real person.
A real
who
ass
it sounds
person.
like we need to do some deep digging
I'm
into who
excited for
this
you to
person
read
was.
what I read today.
I would
Okay.
love to read it. I'm
And
excited.
we'll put
Future
the links on
episode.
our show
Yeah.
notes.
Maybe a future episode.
Yeah.
Yes. That's all I have for the Umbrella Academy. I'd like to talk more about it with our fans, if we have any. I know we have one.
Hey,
Bruce.
Hey, Bruce.
Bruce, if you have any comments.
I hope if you've watched the Umbrella Academy. I'm going to do the Who of the week right now.
Who it up?
Who it up?
I want
So we
to.
want to end on Boo?
Yes, we want to end on Boo because
All
I
right.
have a mini Boo that I'd like to say, and we can use it in the podcast or not.
Okay.
But I want to try and hurry. So the Who of the week is Sports Illustrated.
My girl Megan.
Not just Megan.
Oh,
Not
shit.
just Megan.
Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue has a trans model on the cover for the first time.
God damn, that's so cool.
So how many different cover options
They have
do
3.
Okay.
I think they're all women of color.
Oh, that's cool.
That is amazing.
I saw that Megan Thee was the first rapper to ever be on the cover. God. Like, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, and I looked at every single picture that they posted.
Oh,
on the
I know
internet
you
of
So
me.
did I a few times.
But I didn't really realize that there were multiple cover girls. Is that what you say?
And I know that SI has had trans women featured in their issues in the past, but this is the first time that a
Okay.
trans woman has been on the cover, is what
Okay.
you're saying, right?
Yes, that's what
Like the
I have read.
swimsuit.
Of the swimsuit
Yes,
edition.
yes. Okay.
Elena Bloom is her name.
Get it, Lena.
She's 27 years old. One of the first trans women to walk the runway at Paris Fashion Week.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
First trans woman of color to star in a film at Cannes Film Festival.
Damn.
And the first trans woman to grace the pages of Vogue India.
Wow.
So she's a
So she's a
trailblazer.
first on a lot of
So
counts.
here's Lena Bloom.
Wow.
We'll send a link to the cover.
She looks very nice. Very nice.
She does. Yeah, we'll put this on our show notes if you want to check out Elena Bloom.
A 2-part Who, because we want to shout out Megan Thee Stallion as well.
We love Megan Thee Stallion,
Oh, for God's sake.
and we will
I feel
shout
like
her out.
love is not a strong enough word.
What would be a better suited word?
Obsessed.
Alex and I might be slightly obsessed with Megan Thee.
And I
We're
like it's just
real
Megan
pals
Thee
about
most
it.
of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Megan Thee. We don't
yes,
even need to say
Megan.
Stallion. We just know Megan Thee. Like,
just have to
that's
say
our girl,
M,
Megan
that's
Thee.
it.
You're
M.
on a
Capital
first
M.
name
Capital M.
basis.
Yeah.
Megan Thee is one word.
Maybe Megan Thee will eventually want to interview on Toasted Lavender podcast.
Oh my God. Can you even imagine? You wouldn't even be able to say anything. You just melt into the floor.
Fuck you, Lindsay.
Me and Kai would just be like barricaded in the beer room over there.
And you two would be conducting the
just be
interview.
like,
And we'd be like,
So you do music, huh?
hot girl shit, huh?
Hot girl shit.
Real hot girl shit.
Okay, so
Big booty, big ol'.
yeah.
Body, yaddy, yaddy, yaddy.
Oh my God.
So
This is
I'm like,
what
so
it's
tell me the
come to.
origins of these lyrics. Body, yada, yada, yada.
I have one question for you.
Get the
Body,
fuck
yada,
out
yada,
of here! Get out of here!
All right. So here, I'm going to do a mini boo.
Mini
before
boo.
our regular boo.
Okay, mini boo.
Because this is from my notes and my research in the Umbrella Academy, and mostly just. Anyways, it's I found 2 different queer-based media publications that have not updated their articles specifically for Umbrella Academy in regards to Elliot Page's dead name.
Yeah, that's icky. Dead names are icky.
And like the first one that I found, I sent to you guys. I'm like, this makes me feel weird, and I don't know if this is okay for
I
this
remember
specific
this,
website
yes.
that we don't need to name. But I understand that it was written before he came out as trans, and that's
I wonder is there like a policy on
there's
that?
no policy.
You just
There's
like
no policy. You just do what you can, and
you would
what
hope that the
feel.
author of the article would go back and make some edits,
Or just that
to
the
update
website
it.
in general would be like, hey, we're like a queer media representation. Like,
giant
let's make
queer
sure that we're
media
doing
So
things
either
right.
we take down that article or we update it.
Or we just don't read
or
those
we-
websites anymore.
Okay, so here's the other one. And I'm also not going to name the name on the podcast, so you should edit this out.
I'll edit it out. I'll beep it.
Please
I haven't
beep it.
beeped yet. I don't know. I can try.
That'd be great.
The second
I love
one,
beeping.
okay, so the second website was written last August, the second article, but it was updated in May of 2021. However,
Not updated.
still not updated.
Yeah.
That's
name.
extra yucky.
That's icky.
If it's been updated and it's still dead
Yep,
naming
icky.
him,
Would you like to know the
Yes.
website?
Yeah.
We can do
It's-
it.
don't break my heart. No.
I thought you would not like that.
Fuck.
Oh,
They let us down.
They did it. They really did.
On Elliot. It's regarding Elliot.
Yep.
I feel
and
like
it was updated in May.
I feel
Yeah,
like
they
you need
should
to
have
call
fucking
them out on that.
updated
We
it.
need to send them an email.
Yeah, they need to be called out. They need to be
That's
called out.
fucked up.
Yeah, I don't think I took no. I didn't keep those web pages as resources because I didn't want to link to them. But yep,
Icky.
I don't feel good about
is that
that.
your mini boo?
that's my mini boo. We can move on to the full.
All right, let's go to the big boo.
The big boo.
Big booty, big old boo.
But
And I'm just going to kind of shout out the shit you should care about Instagram.
Yeah, they're
Because
good.
I'm going to just read this from them because I feel like they did a really good job of summing it up. But Alex and I have watched The Handmaid's Tale.
I will not because I don't want to remind myself of.
And we watched it during the Trump administration, which made it extra spooky.
It gave me
but-
a good outlet to be like, it's all fake. Like it's just a show. It's just a movie. Don't even worry.
I'm sure.
And then I'd turn it off and I'd be like,
Cry in your bed.
But
yeah, that feels really like not a good idea.
unfortunately, you know, the United States of America is becoming a little more like Handmaid's Tale in real life because the state of Texas has started to offer a $10,000 bounty, essentially, to people who turn in and are willing to sue anyone who was involved in helping someone get an abortion.
I cannot even wrap my head around that. Like, it's one thing if the state of Texas decides that abortion isn't legal there, but like the people wanting to travel outside of the state or whatever, do we know if this law applies to them or is it just like physicians
So,
within the state?
The
who-
potential list of targets for such lawsuits is kind of expansive. A pregnant person's doctor and nurse can be sued or turned in.
so just if a pregnant person goes to a doctor and says, I want an abortion.
And I assume they get an abortion, and then
So
they
the doctor-
go after the doctor
the
and or
doctor's
nurse.
Okay, never mind. Yep, keep going.
A therapist or pastor who offered moral support. A partner who helped pay for the procedure.
God, this is like such a witch hunt.
A friend, even an Uber driver who drove the patient to the clinic.
How would that person even know? They're just doing their job.
It's the first question that you ask whenever a pregnant person gets in your car.
Are you getting an abortion
Are you
today?
going to an abortion location?
This feels
Yeah, that's really
Under the
absurd. This doesn't seem real.
Under the new law, which a group of doctors, clergy, and clinic owners sued to block. So under the new law, any or all of these people could be taken to court by a stranger with no connection to the patient whatsoever and forced to pay a minimum of $10,000 plus legal fees for aiding and abetting an abortion.
This feels like it's going to just encourage
I feel like
people to like sneak around.
No,
and,
it'll be all those protesters at the abortion clinics who take pictures of Uber drivers' license
who dropped
plates
them off.
and say, this guy dropped off a pregnant person at the abortion center.
So
Take him away.
although abortion patients themselves cannot be sued under the Texas law, almost anyone close to them can be.
But then there's...
So think a parent, an abusive significant other, or a healthcare provider.
Is this
Well,
really?
sue the
Is this
abusive
really going to
significant
pass all the
others.
way through?
I think it did.
Oh my God.
It's
So-
like going to be in effect soon.
So, quote, the state has put a bounty on the head of any person or entity who so much as gives a patient money for an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy before most people know they are pregnant. Worse, it will intimidate loved ones from providing support for fear of being sued.
This is terrible. Get out of Texas.
Please, God, get out
Just
of
So,
flee
abortion
Texas.
rights advocates and providers filed a lawsuit to block the law. So I think it's in flux, but it sounded like it was very likely to be law.
I just want to say fuck Texas.
Fuck Texas.
Boo, Texas.
This has been Toasted Lavender Podcast. Music by Cop Kid and art by Debbie Dixon. We're here. We're queer. And we're drinking beer. Cheers.
Always do your best.
I almost had it, and then I did something on my phone because I wrote something down earlier, and I don't know if you guys have this problem, but sometimes my thumb goes the wrong way, and then weird things happen. Like, I think what just happened was something got archived.
Oh.
I
So you,
think
like,
things get
swipe it
archived on
away
my
and,
phone all the
like-
time, and I wonder where this archive is. I've never been able to
It's
revisit it.
just a black box
Yes.
in the middle of Arizona.
Like, it's not deleted, but
It's
it's not where you can
archived.
find it. So it might as well be.